Boris Johnson has unveiled his so-called roadmap for the gradual lifting of the lockdown in England, a process that starts on March the 8th. Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland have their own separate arrangements. In England, if all conditions are met, the restrictions will all disappear by the 21st of June. The Prime Minister said there could be no such thing as a COVID-free future, but the end of the restrictions was finally in sight. So from the 8th of March, all children in England will go back to school and further education colleges will open. Residents in care homes will be allowed one regular visitor. There can be outdoor meetings in a park, for example, between two individuals. From the 29th of March, up to 6 people or 2 households will be able to meet outdoors, including in private gardens, and some outdoor sport will be allowed. From April the 12th, that's at the earliest, shops, gyms and hairdressers will be allowed to open, plus outdoor hospitality venues such as pub gardens and theme parks. And then, no earlier than the 17th of May, cafes, pubs and restaurants will be able to open fully, and restrictions on outdoor meetings for groups of up to 30 people will then be lifted. And on the 21st of June, at the earliest again, all remaining restrictions will come to an end. We'll have all the detail on ending the lockdown in England, including the possibility of introducing vaccine passports at home and abroad. But we start with our political editor, Laura Kuenssberg.
Instructions from Downing Street have, for months, made life a vague reflection of what it used to be. Going out replaced with staying in, high streets closed for business, classrooms for millions, makeshift ones at home.
We need tens of these. Thank you.
But the kitchen table will soon stop being the school desk too. 6-year-old Aidan and his mum and dad won't have to juggle their jobs with times tables. And he can wear his new uniform at last.
Your lovely new trousers, which you've not had the opportunity to wear. It would be really good for him to go back. What do you reckon? Yeah. I actually wanted to be a teacher. Thank God I didn't pick that profession because I don't think I'd be any good at it.
Getting children back to school was the Prime Minister's priority, but a fast return to freedom this is not.
With every day that goes by, this programme of vaccination is creating a shield around the entire population, which means that we're now travelling on a one-way road to freedom. Whenever we ease the lockdown, whether it's today or in 6 or 9 months, we've got to be realistic and accept that there will be more infections, more hospitalisations and therefore, sadly, more deaths, just as there are every year with flu. And thanks to the vaccinations, that there is light ahead, leading us to a spring and a summer which I think will be seasons of hope and from which we will not go back.
There will be some rules in place for another 4 months. When do you really hope to be able to say to the public, it's over?
Laura, this isn't the end today, but it's very clearly a roadmap that takes us to the end and takes us on a one-way journey. We will be guided by the data and by the progress that we make, and that's why it is important also to be cautious.
There'd been muted support when, after weeks, he presented the plan to MPs.
We have to tread very carefully. So I'm glad the Prime Minister spoke today of caution, of this being irreversible, of assessing the data and following the evidence. Those are the right guiding principles. And I have to say it's a welcome change.
But some Conservatives want to know if the most vulnerable have been vaccinated, why not go faster?
For what reason, once they've been vaccinated and protected from COVID by the end of April at the latest, is there any need for restrictions to continue?
We believe that the protection is very substantial, but there will be a large minority who will not have sufficient protection.
In 6 weeks, it'll be easier to meet friends and family outdoors, accompanied by pints or food served outside from the middle of April. Shops will open their doors then too. But rules of one kind or another will be with us until at least June. There's nothing hard and fast about going back to the office or abroad, or even travelling between the 4 corners of the country.
Clearly, we will make our own judgments about the particular order and the particular timing of that, because the data is not identical in each of the 4 nations.
Today's plans are the beginning. And many businesses worry they might not make it to the end. The famous Hippodrome Casino has been forced to close for 200 days out of the last year. The boss has made 250 people redundant to try to hang on, but won't be able to open for at least another 2 months.
Our balance sheet is now in tatters with a lot of debt, and we've been spending a lot of time with our staff trying to help them with this sort of emotional challenges of not knowing when they can go back to work, not knowing if there's work to go back to. All of the stuff that's been done in the name of COVID has a consequence and a cost as well, and it's business owners like us that are suffering.
For several months, the many costs of coronavirus continue to mount, but the world will start soon to look more like the one we knew. Now, Downing Street hopes that they've been able to get the balance just about right here between that desire to get things back to normal, but still the very real risks from the disease itself. But Boris Johnson did get a bit of a hard time from some of his MPs tonight when he had a meeting with them. Some of them really frustrated about the pace of this going, as they see it, too slowly, given all the progress that there's been with the vaccine. It's worth saying too tonight, there's still some really big gaps over what might be next. No fixed date on when people will be told to go back to the office rather than stay working at home. Nothing clear about how foreign travel might look by the time of summer holidays. And also the government considering the issue of whether or not we'll all have to prove we've had a vaccine before going abroad or before perhaps even doing various activities here at home. The controversial concept of a vaccine passport. That is something that the government is going to be reviewing. That said, there is a lot of detail that we didn't have this morning, a lot of dates now in the diary, but whether in England or decisions to be taken in the next days and weeks in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales too, there are still huge things to consider for politicians in the weeks ahead, and that ways that affect millions of us so profoundly.
Laura, many thanks again. Laura Ginsberg with her thoughts there at Westminster.